The Macy's Days cat, the biggest cat in the world. The first time I saw it was when I picked it up at Macy's warehouse in 1970, Weehawken. Used to go down there, they used to have the garbage outside, to pick it up and clean it, but when the time come to get rid of the floats, can you get rid of these for me? He said, yeah, no problem. And he called me, and I lucked out.
As I'm walking down the tracks, out of the weeds, I see this face, this cat face with a Christmas hat and these big eyelashes sort of looming up out of the weeds in the distance. And I was like, oh man, what could that possibly be?
The largest cat in the world first appeared in issue number 6 of Weird New Jersey.
Is it the largest cat in the world?
That's what they say.
So in my wheelhouse for this kind of stories that I do, and then to have a character like Billy just kind of emerge from this warehouse, pull up on a forklift. It was like, this is just perfect. This is why I do this.
I've seen a lot of feral cats on my walks on the tracks, but I never seen one this big.
The Newark branch, part of the Erie Railroad, went into operation in the 1870s and was an active route until 1966. After that, it didn't disappear, it just became invisible. Still there, running right by residential neighborhoods and cutting through warehouse districts, but unused, unnoticed, not quite part of everyday reality. In the present, but not of it. A twilight landscape.
I was out on the train tracks that day that I saw the largest cat in the world for the first time. Scouting a place to bring some reporters who wanted to do a story about my new book, Walking the Newark Branch. Just kind of looking around. I'd already been there, but I wanted to find a place that was close to the street so they didn't have to trespass too much.
Wheeler explores these corners, these physical places and corners of New Jersey that people will never go themselves.
So I went up to it and I took like a lot of pictures, and I was just staring at it like, what could this be? How did this get here? So I took the pictures of the cat and I put it up on Facebook, and almost immediately Mark Skirtman posted, hey, we know that cat, that's the largest cat in the world. And I'm like, really? Is it?
We interviewed Doug Kirby and Ken Smith, who run the Roadside America site, and we had a big chat. We were talking about a lot of stuff in New Jersey, weird stuff. And just at the end of the conversation, and Ken goes, hey, the largest cat in New Jersey is located in Jersey City. It's on top of a clock shop or something.
And didn't he actually say that would be a good cover for the magazine?
Yeah.
Ding!
He told me it was on the cover of Weird New Jersey issue 6 in 1995.
So we went down there and we took a photograph of it. Actually, it was all closed off, so we had to go like in front of the gate to take the photo.
I thought it would have just disintegrated by now, and when it was discovered again by Wheeler, it was like, oh my God, it doesn't look a day older. I mean, it doesn't look good, but it didn't look good back then either.
It was pretty cool to get that recognition immediately. Like, okay, this is the cat from, and Weird New Jersey's already covered it.
What's cool about this was it all kind of came together where Wheeler was showing me this crazy cat. I mean, I love bonkers visuals like that. I was like, I gotta have that in my story about the railroad tracks and the old Newark line. But then when we saw the cat, we're like, this is not gonna fit in my story. This has to be a whole separate story for me.
He did a whole piece about my book, which was really cool. And then after we wrapped that up, he was like, now, what about this cat? Because it was parked in the back of this, it looked like a warehouse or something. It actually turned out to be Fleet Parts in Belleville. So I'm like, let's go down the hill and see if we can find out who owns this cat.
So we knock on some doors in the factory around where the cat was, and we're like, we're curious about the cat behind the factory. You guys know anything about the cat? And they all started laughing. So they were like, yeah, it's Billy's cat, we got to get Billy. So they flagged down Billy, and then, here comes Billy on this forklift, and he pulls right up, and he's like, I'm so glad you guys were here. I'm so glad you're here, because I got to talk to somebody about this cat.
The first one I took out was the Cinderella Castle. I destroyed it. Now, the second one I took out was the dinosaur. I destroyed that too, in the dumps. The cat I didn't want to destroy. I see maybe I could find a spot for it. And then when I brought it back to the truck stop where I parked my truck, The guy says, what are you doing, Bill? I says, I'm trying to find a spot for it. He said, you know what, let's put it up on that little shack over there. Put it up on the shack. It stayed there for 10 years.
He was supposed to take the cat to the dump all the way back in 1970, and he just couldn't do it, you know? So instead, he's been taking care of this giant fiberglass cat.
I remember when I saw it, it was at this trucking company that had like a barbed wire fence around it and guard dogs. You couldn't get anywhere near it, so like any pictures you took of it were from like across a parking lot.
10 years. Then all of a sudden, the guy that was pumping the gas there was a friend of mine. He said, Bill, you got to get your cat off the roof. The bank took the property over. I said, oh, wow. Okay, I went and got it. I took it off the roof.
Timeline of it is only becoming more clear now since it's been rediscovered.
When I took it off the roof, I brought it to try to go up Manhattan Avenue and rip the wires down going across the street. I had to get my buddy to come with a boom truck, take it off my truck, put it on a boat trailer, put it on a boat trailer. When I got back there, the guy from the bank was there. He said, you ain't taking the cat. I said, I ain't taking the cat. No. I put that cat on the roof 10 years ago. I'm taking the cat off the roof. He parked his car behind there. You know? So I said, if you don't move your car, I'm going to back over you. He said, I'll call the cops. I said, by the kind of cops come, your car's going to be messed up anyway. He moved the car, I signed a note, and I took my cat on its merry way. And that's how I went down to Cliffy's. I known Cliffy for 45 years. He used to fix my cars back in the 70s. He had a body shop. Then he went from the body shop. He can't get old. He went into the clocks. Cliffy fell in love with it. He loved it. Billy, put it up there. Okay, we put it up there, and it stayed up there for 25 years. For a man to put something on the roof for 25 years and not complain, you can't beat that. He was away for a while with his wife. She loved it in the beginning. Don't get me wrong. She loved it in the beginning. After a while, you know, it's like anything else, you get tired of it. You know, and then people were going down there visiting it and bothering them, taking pictures. Finally, when I took it off the roof, nobody knew where it went. Then my boss from Fleet Parts let me keep it in Kearney, where we had the other warehouse, for almost 8 years. Then we moved from there. I didn't know he was going to let me keep it over here. So I moved into a new rent. I paid 5 years rent for new rent. Then that new rent closed up. And then I said, Bill, you gotta get your cat out of here. I said, okay. Then I brought it over here. So my boss said, I said, Rich, can I park it here again? He said, yeah, go ahead. If it wasn't for my boss, I wouldn't have been able to keep this cat. You know what I'm talking about. So now I was over there and you come along, walking down the railroad tracks and found it. And it was the best day of my life because you opened up the door for it.
Nobody was really sure whether it was actually in the Macy's parade Macy's denied it.
But I knew it was in the parade, you know, and nobody was going to tell me different. He called me up. He called me a liar. He called up and he said, no. I said, I don't got to prove nothing to nobody. Have a good day. Yeah. I got to prove nothing to cat. I know it. I know where my cat come from.
A stray cat isn't news. A stray cat that has found a home just in time for Thanksgiving is heartwarming, but it still isn't news. A stray cat that has found a home in time for Thanksgiving that has painted eyelashes, wears a Santa Claus hat, and is the size of a smart car, that's news. How did such an improbable creature come to be? That too is a Thanksgiving story. It starts with the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, the pride of New Yorkers and the delight of little children since 1924.
It's made of fiberglass. It lasted 52 years outside already. It will last another 52 years. The cat was on top, and it was a wooden box shaped like a cheese. And the guy would drive inside the Jeep like this, and have a windshield, and he would drive through the parade.
Lucky the Christmas cat, or whatever his name was originally in 1968, was not a brand, not a movie tie-in or a Saturday morning cartoon character. He was just a festive fellow who seemed to belong on a float. And so he was sent cruising down Herald Square on a big piece of cheese, concealing the Jeep beneath, with a whole lot of human-sized mice at his side.
They had all little mice, and they had little girls walking around with mice uniforms on.
This thing having been a Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade story, I was like, this is a good November story.
You know, I tried selling it, but I didn't want to sell. I just wanted to donate it to animal organization.
Brian was like, I'm from News 12, New Jersey. We're interested in this cat. What's the story behind it? And so he's like, yeah, that's my cat. It was in the Macy's Day Parade. I want to donate it to an animal shelter. And I think Brian and I, we both looked at each other and were like, whoa, that's a good story.
And called Billy and it's like, hey man, let's do the story about the cat. And he was all for it and he was great. And we talked about the cat and talked about how he wanted to get it adopted. It aired at 6 o'clock and then it re-aired at 10 o'clock. And then at 10:30 that night, I got a phone call.
Basically, they put it out there into the world that Billy wanted to find an animal rescue to donate his cat to. So this cat could be a mascot and help them with adoptions. That was the whole idea behind it. And so Brian put it on the news that night, and by 11 o'clock that night, an animal rescue, Blue Arrow Farms, had contacted Brian, and the wheels were in motion for this cat to have a new home.
You know, a lot of people laughed at me, called me crazy. Matter of fact, I seen a guy the other day. He got to see me on TV. I thought you were crazy, but now you're really crazy.
It was just really covered well in the media, which was nice.
When he did the interview, he asked me, Billy, he says, do you want me to put your number out there so they call you? I said, no. I said, if they call you, good. He called me the next morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. The guy called him 11 o'clock at night, wanting the cat. And he told me all about it and this and that. I said, that's the man. Don't worry about it. Nobody's getting it but him.
At that point, I was like, look, I'm the middleman here. I got to get out of the middle here. I don't want to be wheeling and dealing and being like the giant cat float broker. So I was like, look, give me your info and I'll put you in touch with Billy. So I stepped out of the way at that point and just let it happen.
Then the process began where Billy went up there. He met with Don, who owns Blue Arrow Farms.
He's a cat man. He saved 200 cats. And how else can you get rewarded but to have the biggest cat in the world?
And he just, got the tour, made sure it was the right place, and he came back and he called me up and he was like, oh, I found the place. This is the spot. We're taking it,
It's going to where I want it to go. It will always be by animals.
There was a lot of work involved with moving the cat. Blue Arrow Farms was about an hour away from Belleville, so Billy didn't want to take it up there on the trailer because it was a really old trailer. One of the tires was shot. The bearings were probably going to freeze up.
It's on a regular metal skid. I'm going to pick it up like this, drive it around, and put it right on my flatbed. And I ain't even putting a canvas on it. I'm going to drive it up the streets like that.
Just like a parade again.
Just like that, man. The way I took it out of Macy's with no canvas on it. When I took that out of Macy's, it was on a Sunday morning. I'll never forget. I drove down Central Avenue, and I drove past the church, and people were out on the streets and going crazy as I drove down the street.
Billy had help that day. 2 people that were there during the original move from Cliff's Clocks, Orlando and Sean. Billy went and got some shrink wrap, wrapped it around the tail because the tail had been a little bit damaged. And it was kind of a long trip, so they wanted to make sure that none of the parts fell off. They strapped down the Christmas hat and just made sure that all the loose ends were tied up. And then we got on the road. Billy and Sean were in the lead. They were in the first car. Then Orlando drove the truck with the car trailer with the cat on it. And then I was behind them. So we had a little procession all the way up to Blue Arrow Farms. The whole time we were driving up there, I saw people taking pictures and videos on their cell phones.
coincidence that this wound up like where it should be?
That's right.
Serendipity.
Serendipitous, thank you.
So then when we got up to Blue Arrow Farms, we pulled into the parking lot there. They had a tractor with prongs on the front, and they came, lifted it up off the flatbed, drove the car trailer out, and then set it down very gently on blocks.
People love to follow up on it. And the best follow up on it is I didn't sell it. We put out there to be adopted and it got adopted. That's the whole best part of the story.
After I talked to Billy, I actually ran into a guy who owns a cabinet shop around there who said he had offered Billy, I think, 5 or 10 grand for that cat, and Billy said no. So he was trying to get either some serious money for that cat or donate it to a place where he felt like it could do some good. And then in the end, of course, he ended up getting no money for it, but he got it to a place that makes him happy, and you know, he went and did the heartfelt thing.
So hopefully this cat can be a symbol for animal rescue for many years to come.
The guy's got a lot of history. He got history with Macy's. He's got history with cats. He's got history with Felix. It's at the right place. You couldn't find a better place. That's what he does. That's his thing, adoption. And not only that, how many people are going to go up there just to go there and take a picture of the Macy's Days cat, the biggest cat in the world?
There's the crew right here.